when you think of military off-road vehicles, you probably imagine huge armored behemoths, tanks, Humvees, monstrous 888 trucks tearing through mud and battlefields. But what if I told you there's an entire world of tiny off-road military vehicles that almost nobody knows about? Machines built to sneak, carry, climb where the big ones can't go. Today we're diving into the 10 smallest off-road military vehicles you never knew existed. And trust me, you won't believe some of these. Picture this. A vehicle so small it can be deployed by helicopter, dropped into rugged terrain, scuttle over rocks and trees, maybe even swim across a creek where a big truck simply can't follow. That's the kind of story we're going to unpack. You'll meet machines that blur the line between utility buggy and full-blown military gear. We'll go through each one, where it came from, what made it special, how it punched above its weight, and why many people overlooked it. So buckle up, even though there's no seatbelt in our audio story. If you like surprising tech, hidden history, or just weird military contraptions, you're in for a treat. And if you stick around to the end, you'll discover one little vehicle so odd and compact you'll be scratching your head. Why did they build that? Okay, let's launch into the first one. Our first tiny warrior is the AMC M422 Mighty Mite. Back in the late 1950s for the US Marines, this little 4x4 was designed to be ultra-light, ultra-small, at just 1,700 pounds empty, with a length of around 107 inches. That's less than 3 meters, and width of about 61 inches. It was extremely compact. The Mighty Mite was intended to be helicopter airliftable, to drop into remote zones, then zoom off carrying troops or gear. It had an aluminum body to keep weight down, unusual for a military vehicle of that era. What made it special? A few things. Its ultra-short wheelbase meant a ridiculously tight turning radius, so it could maneuver where bigger trucks couldn't. Despite its size, it could carry a surprising load, rated to carry 850 lbs off-road, even though the vehicle itself weighed about 1,700 lbs. It shows how design trade-offs prioritized mobility over armor or heavy firepower. Why did it matter? For airborne operations, for special forces insertion where speed and agility trumped armor, machines like this gave the Marines a mobility tool that bigger vehicles simply couldn't provide. It was in many ways ahead of its time. Legacy fun fact. The production run was short. From 1959 to 1962, only a few thousand were made, because as helicopter lift capacity increased and newer vehicles emerged, the design niche for the Mighty Mite shrank. Still, today collectors and military vehicle enthusiasts prize it for its history and unusual design. All right, but if you thought that was compact, wait for the next one. It's even stranger. The next vehicle is the LuAZ 967M, also known simply as the LuAZ 967. Built in the Soviet Union starting in the early 1960s, this was a 4x4 amphibious cargo light vehicle, weighing around 950 kilos, about 2,000 lbs, according to its specs. What's fascinating is that its design came out of the need for airborne air mobile forces in the USSR, a vehicle that could go places where larger trucks couldn't, delivered by parachute or by helicopter, and then fight or support operations in rugged terrain. The specs show it had independent suspension, watertight steel body, and could be folded or stowed for air transport. Its uniqueness: it was amphibious, had controls on the center line so the driver sat in the middle. The windshield could fold down, making it a very low-profile transport. That's a big deal if you're moving behind enemy lines. It was tiny by all measures for a military off-road machine. Why it mattered? In Cold War military thinking, getting mobility into rough terrain, marshes, flooded areas, remote forests was a strategic advantage. The LuAZ 967M gave Soviet airborne troops a lightweight platform to carry supplies, evacuate wounded, or lay light armaments where big trucks or even jeeps could struggle. Legacy fun fact: because of its small size and unique features, it became somewhat of a cult vehicle among military tech enthusiasts today. It sheds light, pun intended, on how both East and West explored mobility in compact forms. But here's a teaser for you, coming up soon. A vehicle so minimal you might ask, is that even a car? The next chapter will blow you away. Moving onward, our third contender is the M274 1.2-ton 4x4 utility platform truck mule, often called the mechanical mule. Introduced in 1956 for the U.S. Army's airborne and infantry units, this vehicle was essentially a platform with wheels, very stripped down. The design goal was to supplement both the 1.4-ton and 3.4-ton trucks by offering something ultra-light, yet off-road capable. It could carry up to 1 or 2 tons of supplies, despite being extremely compact. Unique features. It had full-time 4x4 drive, and earlier models even had 4-wheel steering. The steering wheel could be positioned so the driver could drive, walk beside, or even walk behind the vehicle. Imagine controlling a machine while walking next to it. Also, it was designed to be helicopter lifted and to operate even if flipped over in some situations. The focus was pure utility and terrain crossing rather than comfort or power. The load bed was simple but functional, and it often served as a weapons carrier, ammunition hauler, or light support transport. Why it mattered? For airborne troops, logistics is often the bottleneck. How to get supplies, how to move weapons into broken, hilly jungle terrain. The mule solved a niche, ultra-mobile payload. It stretched what off-road vehicle meant in a military setting. Legacy fun fact, production ran from 1956 through 1970, with the machine used into the 1980s. After retirement, many found second lives in civilian use. Farms, rugged industries, off-road hobbyists, okay. And just when you thought the list could slow down, the next one is even more surprising. For number 4, we have the Playmobil Speciaal Voertuig, LSV, from the Dutch Royal Netherlands Army. Known affectionately as the Playmobil because of its small size, this 334m long, 1.81 meters wide, 1.78 m high off-road vehicle weighed about 1.4 tons and was designed for air mobility. Built for the Netherlands Army's Airmobile Brigade, it had variants for anti-tank, medical evacuation, general-purpose roles, and was built to be transported by helicopter or airdropped. What made it special? Its size is tiny compared to standard military trucks. Its design specialized in being ultra-deployable, lightweight, low-profile, agile, for quick insertion behind enemy lines or in support of airborne operations. The nickname Playmobil says it all, a small toy-sized combat vehicle. Why it mattered? For forces that must rapidly deploy by air and operate in isolated terrain, having such a compact off-road asset is a force multiplier. Conventional trucks simply would be too heavy or too large for certain missions. The LSV filled that gap. Legacy fun fact, though not as globally famous as major military vehicles, this type of niche, ultralight off-road military transport, shows how mobility thinking evolved during the late 20th century. And that small size doesn't mean unimportant. And we're only halfway through our 10. If you're excited so far, good. The next ones get weirder. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll cover vehicles that blur even more boundaries. Amphibious ultralight strike, special ops machines you likely never heard of. Don't forget, if you're enjoying this rundown, hit like and subscribe, you know the drill. And comment below which of these 4 already surprised you most. Alright, that wraps part 1 for you. Let's catch up shortly for part 2, narrative perspective used. The script is written in second person, you, your, talking directly to the viewer as if we're in conversation. Storytelling devices used, hooks, you probably imagine. But what if? Curiosity gaps, teasing even stranger next vehicle. Comparisons, big trucks versus tiny vehicles. Cliffhangers, the next one is even more surprising. Mixing facts with conversational commentary. Best YouTube use case. Ideal video length around 12 to 15 minutes, with all 10 entries. Pacing. Introduce each vehicle in 1 to 1.5 minutes. Mix visuals of the vehicles in action with narration. Visual style. Show archival footage, photos of each vehicle. Map or terrain overlays. On-screen bullet points of unusual specs. Zoom-ins on tiny size versus standard trucks.